Welcome to the summit of Mentor Mountain. Everybody, my name is Cole Tanner, and today we have Greg and Angie Poulsen on the show. Greg and Angie, if you were to meet them today, you would see a couple who's just crushing it in business, but what you wouldn't see is the dark journey they traveled through life to get to where they are today. And this episode is all about exploring that dark journey. But before we get on with the show, if you enjoy hearing stories or wisdom from people who have mastered their craft, go ahead and follow this show, subscribe, follow, like this video, and I will do my best to make it worth your while. Now, on with the show. The story starts out with Greg, his ex-wife, and his daughter, Jordan.
Jordan was 3, and, Christmas time, right in between Christmas and New Year's, we realized, she had like a little bump on her stomach. And so we took her to the doctor, and they're like, oh, she just got gas. And it's like bloating her stomach or whatever. And so we gave her some of them medications or whatever she was giving us, and then it just didn't go away. And so we went back and found out, and they did an ultrasound and found out that she had a tumor on her kidney. It was about the size of a grapefruit that was making it kind of stick up, right? She got diagnosed at first it was called a Wilms tumor, which was, apparently is not that big of a deal. I'm sure it can be in some circumstances, but they're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's like 90% chance we'll just take it out and we'll be good to go, right? And so that's what we was thinking at first. And then they had to do the surgery to remove the tumor and her kidney, and after they did a biopsy, we learned that it was actually clear cell sarcoma of the kidney, and so which was a lot worse. We basically lived at Primary Children's for about 8 months. For your little baby girls that could go through that, it was life altering, right? It was devastating, really, because it went from something that was pretty well treatable to something that they didn't even have any idea what the hell to do with it.
But sweet little Jordan did not give up that easy.
She didn't know that she was like deathly ill, right? She just knew she was sick. But so it didn't affect her. Well, obviously she was super sick, right? And there was days where she would just lay there and she would, have canker sores in her mouth and she's losing her hair and stuff like that. I think it was definitely super, it was probably more confusing than anything to her, especially like when she lost her hair, because she was, she's a little baby girl, so she was like princesses and all this stuff, like pretty hair. And then, we had to cut her hair off because it was just falling out in like clumps, so we cut it off and shaved it. And I think she was sad. She was definitely sad about that, and so that was, I think a lot of it was confusing, why but the 3-year-old's comprehension of like what's really going on is not really like what would be for like me or you to go through it. But her demeanor, she was always happy. She was happy, even when she was sick. We've got a ton of pictures of her, when she just smiling, and she had like a PICC line or a central line, with a little tube that went into up here that administers stuff, and it was always had fluids. So she always had a little bag with like a little pump and fluids bags, and she carried it around and like a little purse, and it's really was pretty inspiring to see how the kids handle it, because there's lots of times even the doctors would say this, the adults, when they get cancer, a lot of times, they go fast because they're like, oh God, I got cancer, and they just kind of give up, right? The kids don't really know that, so they're fighting, and they're super sick, and they don't really know. I got pictures of her like in the hospital, on the bed, playing with my phone and the laptop, putting lipstick on and stuff like that, and she just got like major rounds of chemotherapy and radiation, and she didn't really care.
After 8 months of living in and out of the hospital, Jordan's battle would end.
And eventually, she ended up passing away from complications of chemo and too many and the pain medication. It was hell, man. It was so. It changed my view on a lot of things, right? Because we're LDS, right?
Now, when Greg says LDS, he's referring to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, more commonly known as the Mormon Church.
And when Jordan passed away, I was just pissed. It's not like I was an active LDS or anything like that, really, at the time. I was pissed. I was mad at everything. How could this happen to this little girl? And I really just kind of didn't really care about much, right? I wanted my son and my wife at the time, right? After she died, after she passed away, my ex-wife, she kind of went a little crazy too, right? It was affecting we ended up getting a divorce soon after. And then it was me and my son. And, I tried to hang on to it for a while, but I just kind of lost everything. I didn't really care about anything too much. I got into drugs real bad. Thank God for my parents, because my parents helped, take my son and, helped raise him, but I got into drugs real bad. I went to prison twice. And I just really didn't, I didn't really take anything in life very serious. And it was kind of, it just affected me that way. And I guess that's kind of probably how I coped with it, was drugs, and just kind of masking everything with, go type of lifestyle. And my parents took my son the first time I went to prison. They're amazing people. And and it's not really just my parents too. My parents, my grandparents, my brothers and my sister, are huge supports for me. If it wouldn't have been for those guys, I definitely wouldn't be here talking to you right now. 100%.
So I hear different opinions on prison sentences, on whether they're too light or too harsh, and I wanted to know Greg's opinion, and this was his answer.
The second prison sentence was 3 years. And that 3 years that I spent in there absolutely 100% saved my life. Because the thing with drug addiction and stuff like that is, unless you remove yourself completely, new friends, new everything, right? It's going to be really hard for you to quit drugs, while you're on the streets and you're not in prison or something. It's super tough. And so prison absolutely saved my life. I think, honestly, right now that they're not sending, if I would have got charged with the things that I got charged with now, I don't think I would go to prison. Because I think that they've gotten lighter on drug offenses. And it doesn't work for everybody, right? It's a mindset too, right? You gotta want to quit drugs to quit drugs. Just, if you go do 5 years in prison and the whole time you're there, all you're thinking about is what you're going to do when you get out, and you still want to do drugs, and you're doing drugs in prison because that's there, you know what I mean? If you're doing that, then you're going to get out and you're going to do prison, whether it's a 2-year sentence or it's a 10-year sentence, it's up to you. I mean, for me personally, it was, 3 years is a long time. I missed out on a lot of shit. Nieces and nephews being born, my son having birthdays, and, he was a whole different person when I got out the second time. In 3 years, kids change a lot in 3 years, and, so when I got out the second time, I was like, I am not going to go back. I mean, the first time I got out of prison, within a week, I was already immersed back into the lifestyle of drugs and just all that stuff, you know what I mean? So, like, the first time was 2 years, and it just didn't do. I hadn't really decided at that point,
So what made Greg want to turn his life around?
I think the second time I went to prison, when you get in there, all your friends disappear, right? They ain't writing you letters. They ain't calling you. I mean, you got a girlfriend. She wants to be your wife or whatever while you're out there. And then you leave and you find out all these friends that you're hanging out with every day, you're doing things with, they're taking your stuff and your girlfriend leaves you, right? And so like it's all kind of fake, right? The people that are really there for you are the ones that stick around with you even though you're gone for 3 years, and they're the ones that pick you up when you leave. And for me, I think it was realizing that, because when I was doing drugs and stuff like that, like I'm separating myself from my family and my kids, my kid, you know what I mean? And then when you get in there, you realize who's really standing by your side, you know what I mean? And that was a huge thing for me. My family never gave up on me, but, and they're the ones that really helped me realize that this is what I need to do, And, my one brother, Randy, he's just younger than me, about 18 months younger than me or whatever. He was pissed at me. He wouldn't really talk to me while I was in prison, because I had, not like I ever stole from them or anything like that, but I just wasn't, a brother to them. I was always doing my own thing. And so when I got out, and that kind of hurt my feelings that he didn't want to really be part of my life really much anymore. So when I got out, I went and hung around him, and even though if he didn't want me to or not, you know what I mean? So I kind of interjected myself back in his life, but because they were always happy. And yeah, so I think that's what helped me realize that my family has been huge for me.
Now that we know a little bit about Greg, we're going to move on to Angie's backstory.
I grew up in a home where, first, I definitely want to say my parents were both really good people. My dad served in Vietnam. He fought frontline. He was a gunner in a helicopter, and he had a lot of mental illness. And back then, they did not have help for that. And unfortunately, he did a lot of bleeding over onto our family. So in my younger years, I was really, really angry at my dad as a teenager because I couldn't understand why he was so scary and why he was the way he was. And we ended up, for a while, and I always wished he would die because there's so much contention in our home. And, then lo and behold, we come on vacation to Utah, and for my dad to give a blessing, to bless one of my nieces, and he had a massive heart attack and died. And it was the most horrible. It still chokes me up. Because he was he really was a good person. And I've learned so much about him after. And I truly feel that he is with our family and with me. He knows the damage and hurt that he's caused, and he's trying to fix it on the other side. And I truly do feel that. But then I had, the shame of wanting someone to die, and then they did. And our whole life as a family changed. We were living in Colorado at the time, and, financially, my mom was going to have to go back to work, and I come from a family of 10, but it was us last 3 kids. My twin sister and my brother, who's only 11 months older than us, but we got separated. So I went to live with my brother in Oregon, and my sister went to California, and my brother stayed with my mom, to kind of help her. But it was a super tragic thing. And I think I lived with all of that hurt and anger and shame and guilt till I was, I think, 37 years old.
Angie would also get married.
Got married pretty young and started having kids. The traditional, at least for my era, that's how it was, when in the LDS, you have a returned missionary and you get married and you move on and you think you know what love is. And, and I didn't. Got into a marriage where it was it was pretty toxic, you know, on both sides. If you bring two hurt people together, it creates a firestorm. Yeah, I was trying to do the right thing and trying to, coming from the family I came from, it was pretty normal. I just didn't want anyone to hit me. So, you know, I felt like my marriage was pretty normal for quite a while, until the latter years, where I thought, you know, it's not a good thing, you know, for either of us. You know, I wanted certain things for my kids, and I wanted certain things for myself too that I felt were important. And a lot of my needs were being met. They weren't important. And they had never been important in my whole life. I didn't have a voice as a child. You know, it was just, you do what you're told and be quiet, you know, or else. And that's not who I am. But I felt like after years and years and years, like I was a lost and really a hollow shell. I felt like from a spiritual perspective, like I felt like I had done really everything I was supposed to. And like, why is my life like this?
So how did these lost souls meet each other?
So I had been separated for the second time. It was really only for like 3 weeks. I had separated for a year, and then went back, and then for about 9 months or 10 months, and then left again with my kids. And so it had only been, honestly, probably like 3 weeks since I had separated the second time. And some friends of mine said, hey, I just got done taking my boys to both their football games, and I was tired, and they had invited me to go to this Halloween party, girls' night type deal out in Mount Pleasant with some of their friends. And I was like, I'm just going to stay home. And they said, no, get in the shower. We're coming to pick you up. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I you know, headed on the way down with wet hair and was, you know, going to get ready when I got down there. And I kind of was in a little wild streak myself. Just, again, coming out of, I was angry. I felt like I had really tried to do everything right in my life, and it was all wrong. Everything had gone wrong. And so, you know, we stopped at the liquor store on the way down and started drinking, like I did anyways, headed down to Mount Pleasant, and, you know, got ready in little deer costumes with a couple other friends, and we ended up at the Mount Pleasant Triangle Bar. And definitely a place, you know, when you've been married, that's like not a place that, and I've been married for 20 years, a temple marriage, and, you know, not a place that I really wanted to be. So I kind of stood outside a good chunk of the time. It was uncomfortable having people hit on me and whatnot. And Greg ended up being outside. And so as well, his brother and sister-in-law was like, come with us. And it ended up being the date itself was kind of crazy because we met on Jordan's birthday. And so, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, Jordan was born the day before Halloween, 13th of October.
So we just hit it off, you know, friend-wise, and we just talk, and I figured no other guys will hit on me if I'm hanging out with one anyways. And so we, you know, just talked, and yeah, and it was, you know, about 3/4 of the evening went by, and he ended up telling me, yeah, I just got out of prison 6 months ago. And I was like, we can be friends, because that's a little much for me. But later as the night, you know, went on, he was kind of explaining why, and, you know, a little bit about his life and stuff. So I was like, you know, I really felt comfortable around him.
I was shocked at my luck, you know, and it's funny because, you know, Mom always, you're never going to meet a good girl at a bar. You're never going to meet a good girl at a bar, Greg. And so I met Angie at the bar, you know, which is crazy because you're not going to meet no good girls at the bar, right? This is true, you know, and just, so it's kind of a funny thing, but I after we'd met, you know, so when I got out of prison the second time, I was living with my grandma and grandpa because my dad had guns and stuff at the house, and So they wouldn't let me go there, right? So I was living with grandma and grandpa, and I was telling my grandma a couple of days later, we were talking, and I was like, "Grandma, I don't know what the hell she sees in me, because she's like way above anything that I should be getting, with what I've done with my life and where I'm at, because like I was 32, living with grandma and grandpa, driving a piece of crap truck, didn't have nothing, you know what I mean? Didn't have nothing.
Ended up calling and asking if I wanted to go on a booze cruise, is what they called it. So we ended up driving.
It's a Stampede thing, okay?
Yeah. Like, she wants me to go on a booze cruise. And they were like, just go. So, we ended up, chatting and for most of the evening. And, the next morning I left with my friends and went home, and I honestly didn't think I would really ever hear from him again. But he messaged me, I think like 2 days later, and I just got done, I was super irritated at my daughter. I had just dropped her off at school, and she was kind of not being nice. So he texted me, and I was sending a text to her saying, listen, you don't talk to me that way, blah, 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 blah. And I accidentally sent it to him and not her. So I thought, oh man, I'm never going to hear from him again.
Well, it was like a page long, and I could tell she was chewing somebody out. And I only talked to her for a few times, and so I didn't think that she was chewing me out. I thought it was hilarious, to be honest with you.
We started seeing each other. My divorce became final. This was October 30th when we met. My divorce came final in February 23rd on his birthday, which was kind of funny. Happy birthday. I now could be yours. But no, I was actually quite fast. I don't know how to explain it. It was
very natural.
It was I felt like I was at home. I felt home. But he ended up, because he was in Mount Pleasant, he started working out this way in Eagle Mountain, and I had a place in Eagle Mountain with my kids, and so he just moved in, really.
Now that is all great for Angie and Greg, but how did everyone else feel about it?
My kids were kind of
they were
it was
pissed.
Very fast, and we had a lot of work to do with my kids who really didn't understand what was happening either. So he ended up proposing to me that June of 2017. And then we worked really hard, just really not financially necessarily, right? But we worked really hard to build relationships. It took us a couple years really for him to build a good bond relationship with my kids. We ended up getting married June of 2018. And by then the kids were pretty good with them. And our family has blended and meshed. Caden he's one of my own, and our kids, he's a brother.
Greg and Angie have been able to help each other grow spiritually, emotionally, and even financially, as we'll get into.
After we got married, we were working together out here, and we're just kind of scraping by. We're not really making much money at all, really, just enough to really kind of pay the bills, and that's about it. I've always been in the construction trade, right? I always framed houses and stuff like that. Worked for general contractors, so I always wanted to own my own building company, right? That was just been kind of my dream. But after I got into so much trouble, I always thought it was not going to happen because, I have 13 felonies or something like that, a lot, right? So, while we were working together for a builder developer, we started Cedar Valley Builders together. We started the company together on the side. Then we was just kind of building one house or two houses every once in a while, on the side, while Angie was helping me work through, getting my B100 as a general contractor's license, because there's a ton of paperwork to do, and I would have never been able to do it by myself, right? And it started slow. Started with, a couple houses a year, and it has definitely evolved into something a lot better. I think within the last 12 months, we've done like 20 houses or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. We've started a successful business. We make way more money than I ever thought I was going to make together.
We're able to help a lot of people with it. I think, for us, it was God.
Yeah.
Opening different doors for us, and throughout our lives, how and why we do certain things and why people are brought into our lives. Like working at the city, I had a friend he and his dad have one of the biggest development companies in the state of Utah, and I became good friends with them. And at this point in time in our business, when literally we just started and I couldn't afford even a piece of gum, like I would have had to take a chewed piece of gum off the road and scraped it and put it in my mouth. Like we had no money.
This was only 3 years ago.
Yes. And ended up reaching out. He popped in my mind, ended up reaching out to him, and he had these lots out here. And it just, how everything unfolded was crazy. We had $2,000 in our bank account. That's it. And we're sitting at a meeting with him, and he was like, yeah, I got these lots out here up in Polk Canyon. I got 20 lots. And, Greg was like, well, how much money would you need us to put down? And he was like, $100,000.
200.
Oh, $200,000. And we were like, yeah, no way. And Greg was like, we don't have that kind of money. Like, we could probably put 50. And I remember kicking him underneath the table. And when we left, I'm like, where are you going to come up with $50,000? Like, we have $2,000 in our account. It's like, I don't know. It just felt right to say it. Like, I don't know how we're going to come up with it. And we had some good friends of ours from RCM Homes that Greg we were going to try and do a joint venture together. And this was like months earlier. And they ended up calling him in and into the office like several months after, but the day after we had this meeting with a friend of ours, called him up out of the blue and said, hey, come on in. We want to visit with you today. And he came home with a $48,000 check, which was exactly what we needed to be able to purchase this subdivision. Let's put the deposit down. Right. And after that, it ended up falling together. And, he's looking at trying to help us to get more lots, now. So I think when you do the right things and with the right intentions and you really try and be just a good person, and you can't sit back and do nothing. Like, he's a hustler. I have connections and contacts, and he is a hustler. And he's like, no, we need to contact so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to bother them today. No, we got to call them. And so, like, it's just, we make a good team in, different aspects.
If you're going to try to go be a builder and build in this market that's kind of crazy, I would say you better have some good mentors that you can bounce stuff off of. RCM Homes was a company of 4 guys that are friends, and they've definitely been my mentors. I could call them right now and be like, hey man, what do you think about this? Or do you think this? And they would shoot me straight and be like, no, that's stupid. Or yeah, you do it. You'll make money,
Despite Greg and Angie being extremely successful in business, their true success actually comes from a 501c3 foundation that Angie started, naming it after Greg's daughter, Jordan, who passed away. The Gifts of Joy from Jordan Foundation raises and gives money to children with terminal illnesses.
It's been amazing. It's a lot of work. Mostly Angie does it. I get to see all the good things that come from it. She is definitely the backbone of it. But, we do events and we raise money, and we find people that have terminal illnesses. Not all of it's cancer, but we try to help the kids that are in Eagle Mountain that need their wish paid for Make-A-Wish. And so we raise money and pay for them. And I think we've done probably, I would say probably close to 20 somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yep.
So that's, I mean, it's probably been our biggest accomplishment, really.
I think so too. We're getting to know the families. The first family that we did it for. The really crazy thing is even before I met Greg, when I was doing events at the city, there was a little girl out in Eagle Mountain that got cancer, and Sadie Hewish, and I had started doing stuff for kids with cancer well before I even met Greg. So it was just really weird that we get together on Jordan's birthday, and he had a daughter that passed of cancer, and I learned how to do all these city events, working with the city, and we could continue it and create something beautiful with it to not only help him and his family heal, but help others in the community where we are. So
it's not an easy thing to do.
Well, and I think really the hardest part for us was the first 2 years. Well, really the first year we did it for an individual boy out here that we knew, Wyatt Page, Doug and Emily Page's only child. And, I knew them. Ironically, she donated to me for the Miss Eagle Mountain pageant and was the only one that donated. And I called from Salt Lake to Payson. So a karma turnaround, we start a foundation and donate to them. But the kids, it was really hard for me to really get to know the families and the kids. And then they passed away. That was probably the hardest. And I think we decided after that we were going to partner with Make-A-Wish, and it would kind of be a little bit more of a distance, because that was emotionally, that was tough.
Yeah, that is a tough thing about, the particular foundation that we have. It definitely made us think that maybe we wouldn't do it again on a couple of occasions, but it's also super rewarding, when you see the videos of the kids, going on their trip, making memories with their family, and, we was able to help provide that. So,
and the flip side, it's great too. Like Greg experienced that, right? And now he's got I haven't. So I'm not a support to him in that way, right? But these other, Doug and Emily Page, Doug's our architect. He does a lot of stuff for Cedar Valley Builders, and they're good friends. And they've, I think, been able to help him heal in a different way that I can't, right? And so we have lifelong friendships with different families that we've done stuff with and for. And that part is the most rewarding, I think, to me.
If there's anything Greg and Angie want you to know, it's this.
I think truly, when you're a good person and you're trying to do the right things and you involve God in every aspect of your life, then good things come of it. And he'll open doors that you never thought could open before. And that is, we are true examples of.
Yeah.
I truly feel that way.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you want to support Gifts of Joy from Jordan and help kids with terminal illnesses, there is a link below to that Facebook page, and you can get more information there. Thank you so much for listening. Please drop a like, subscribe. This is a brand spanking new channel, so every little thing helps. Until the next time, my name is Cole. We'll see ya.